And now I'd like to start introducing our distinguished panel of security experts, beginning with Annie Hunsinger Boyer. And Annie, can you start by telling us a little bit about yourself, how you gravitated to the job you're in now, and maybe for purposes of the audience, just a little thumbnail sketch on the CFATS program?
Yes, absolutely. Thank you so much, Sue, for that introduction. And thank you to all of you for participating in this panel. For me personally, as a woman working in security, I'm so excited to see more and more focus placed on including other voices and really seeing how we can, as a group, lift up all of those female voices in the security arena. So as Sue said, my name is Annie Hunsinger Boyer. I am currently the branch chief for policy, rulemaking, and engagement at the Office of Chemical Security. We're part of the Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency, specifically the Infrastructure Security Division. And that's the part of CISA. It's primarily focused on physical security. My office implements programs that are aimed at reducing the risk of chemicals being used by a terrorist actor in an attack. We really do this through a few programs. The first is the CFATS program that Sue alluded to earlier. And under CFATS, the agency identifies high-risk facilities, and then we work with all those different types of facilities to ensure they have security in place at a level to measure it with the risks that their chemicals present. We also have the proposed ammonium nitrate security program, which was created by Congress in the wake of the Oklahoma City bombings. And then finally, right now, we are working on an emerging area of kind of all sorts of different types of work surrounding voluntary chemical security initiatives. This is an exciting new mission space for my office. In my current role, I oversee the teams that support these different mission areas. The first team I work with develops the regulations, analyzes threats, and tackles policy questions surrounding chemical security. The second team handles our stakeholder mission. So they work on our public messaging. They engage with all of the different industry associations that represent the facilities that we work with. And then they also work with our international partners, which is an area that CISA has recently put a lot of effort towards expanding. And then the final team that I work with is focused on those voluntary chemical security initiatives. This is going to be an incentives-based program providing resources and support, not just for high-risk facilities, but also to all of those who have chemicals that could be used to do harm. So Sue, you asked a little bit about how I got into this world, and I have to say it wasn't a straight path. If you had told me back in, 10th grade chemistry that I was going to be security, not just me, but my chemistry teacher would have laughed you out of the room. So really, the path all started when I was, Sue's also laughing. The path really started when I was in grad school. I was working on an MBA and a master's in international relation, and I applied through USA Jobs. I'm one of the fortunate few that kind of entered the federal government space through one of those online postings. So I applied, and then 4 months later, I got a call back for an interview. And at that point, of course, I had no recollection of what I had applied to or what the position was. But when I entered, I got the job. I interviewed with a panel, and it was very opaque as to what the position was really going to be. There were a lot of acronyms, there's a lot of government talk, but nonetheless, I took the job and I entered the agency as one of the absolute lowest ranked people employed here. And then, through kind of a series of fortunate circumstances, I was able to really start building my security knowledge. Over the last 10 years, I've been really lucky in that I've had the opportunity to, grow as a professional and develop subject matter expertise in the chemical security policy arena in all of our other programs. So, the path, I guess the one kind of learning experience from all of this is when they talk about getting your foot in the door as being the first step, it really is the first step. A lot of people don't come to the federal government thinking that they're going to be an expert in a specific area. It's really something that is learned and developed by taking opportunities and looking to grow.
Moving on to a more fun question for each of our panelists, and I'll start with Annie. What do you like most about your current job in CISA?
Thanks, Sue. Well, I'm pretty sure that my boss would want me to answer this question by saying that, my boss is my favorite part of my job. But while I really love working at CISA, and I think that all of my colleagues are really great to work with, and I have learned so much from all of them, at the heart of why I like working here is all of the engagement with stakeholders and with real people out in the world that I get to do. So before I went to grad school, I worked a lot in nonprofits. I was a Peace Corps volunteer. And so, doing the type of work that allows you to see the impact that you're having on the world is really important to me. I like to know that what I'm doing is making a difference. And so where I am now and in my current role, I can see and I can speak directly with people whose lives are impacted by our programs, not just domestically, but internationally. So when I'm talking about chemical security, I'm not just talking about dry regulations on paper. I'm also talking about mom and pop business owners who are coming to us and, asking questions about what they need to do in order to make sure that they aren't a target. I'm talking about international partners who have experienced domestic terrorism events and who are looking to the United States to gain lessons learned and to assist them in building their capacity. So those are really meaningful experiences to me, and it's really what drives me to continue in this job. It's not always easy. It's not always easy to be a leader. It's not always easy to be part of an organization that is growing and doing new things. You don't go to work every day and do the same thing over and over. I would probably personally hate that if that's what it was like, but it can also be really stressful because you're not always able to just rely on what happened before. You are always forging a new path, but that's a really meaningful path. And so being able to, leverage the work that we have done to help others is what makes working at CISA so meaningful to me.
Your thoughts on how we recruit going into the future, particularly to bring more women into the security profession, and then your personal advice, and this is your role as a mentor, to women who might be interested in stepping into this profession, be they at the beginning of their career, mid-career, or hey, I just want to make a change. So
Thank you so much, Sue. I think this is a really important couple of questions for us to really be asking ourselves as women in management within the federal government. Within the entire Homeland Security enterprise, really the pipeline that we often work with for recruitment is coming from the military. And so this really just comes down to being a numbers game. There are many more male veterans. And so the pool of candidates that applies when we were looking really just at the military as a recruitment source is primarily male. So I know when I have been on recruiting panels, the majority of resumes that we're getting are from men. So what I would hope that managers are doing is really looking at folks that have the background. It's not always a parent who's applying to a job, but when you're looking at where you're recruiting, we should be looking at getting a diversity of backgrounds. I think that you can see from this panel, I came from kind of the nonprofit sector, Carmen came from the contracting and STEM background, and Marilyn did in fact come from the military and a medical military background. So having all these different perspectives is really important, and how we go about recruiting and the sources that we're looking to recruit from can really impact our candidate pool. One of the pieces of advice I have for women who are, going into interviews in the world of Homeland Security, this is perhaps a little bit of a generalization, but from what I've seen being on interview panels, oftentimes male candidates, they talk about what their teams have done. They talk about the big projects that they have worked on. And many of the female candidates speak specifically about their own roles. And this isn't necessarily a one-to-one picture. If you talk only about the piece that you accomplished versus what your entire team accomplished, you might not be giving, the full story of the impact of your work. So women really, I think, one of the strategies that they can use is not just to present on what their specific past experience has been, but also their potential and, where that experience can be applied to the new positions that they're looking at. And Sue, I think you asked for a little bit of personal advice. I've talked to alumni from my various educational institutions. I've talked to other Peace Corps volunteers, and a lot of people they want to know how to get into the federal government and then how to kind of rise within the federal government once you're there. And the number one piece of advice that I always provide is do not underestimate how important communication is. Management studies have shown that women's voices are often seen as less authoritative, and that ideas that are perhaps embraced when they're presented by somebody who presents as male may be questioned or brushed aside when a woman puts them forward. And I think that in my workplace, I am very fortunate. In CISA, we're very fortunate in that we have female leaders, and that an effort really is made to ensure that everybody who's in the room has the opportunity to speak and contribute their opinions. But regardless of the environment that you're operating in, having strong communication skills it's automatically going to put you ahead in terms of having your ideas and your thoughts and your contributions seen as being valid and worthwhile. So working on writing skills, which is probably seen as very, very basic, and I probably sound like my English teacher mother, but making sure that you can really write things well and present your ideas in a concise, logical manner is really going to benefit you from day one of your career in the federal government.